Rachel from the Wing Canvas here. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to draw female and male anime eyes.
I'll leave a timestamp down below if you'd like to skip the male eyes, but we'll be getting started with the female one. Let's get started with a basic circle. We want to draw the basic shape of our eyes so we know where everything else is going to fall in place. So remember to keep the pressure on your pencil fairly light. We don't want to make any marks that we can't erase later. Now I'm drawing a line on the top. This is going to be the upper lash line, and this is going to be longer than the line that we're going to be drawing at the bottom. And notice how these lines are curving inwards where the circle is at the ends. Now I'm going to draw the pupil. So you just want to draw a circle inside the circle that you drew earlier. Just a little tip that I have for you is if you draw the pupil larger, the eye will look cuter, and if it's smaller, it's less cute. But if you draw it smaller, it is good for if you're trying to draw a scared or surprised facial expression. After drawing the pupil, I'm going to be drawing in two circles, and this is going to show me where the reflection of light is. Now we're going to make the upper lash line a bit thicker. If you look in animes, you will often see that their eyelash lines are super thick. The thicker it is, the cuter it is. Notice how the inside of this line is sharp. It ends in a point. Now I'll be drawing the eyelashes. So I'm going to draw a curved line at the end of that lash line and fill it in. So when you're drawing eyelashes, you don't want to make them come straight out like this. It looks unnatural and just icky. What you do want to do is actually imagine how the lashes would come out naturally. There's going to be a curve to it, and depending on the perspective that you're looking at this eye, it'll change how the lashes look. Since this eye is straight on, the lashes will look like this. The one in the middle kind of comes straight out, the one on the right kind of curves to the right, and the one on the left curves to the left. When you're drawing your lashes, you want to make sure that there's a nice natural curve. And notice how the outer lashes are longer than the inner lashes. If you look in real life and in anime, you'll notice that the lashes are always like this. So now what I'm doing is I'm adding volume to these base lashes that I'm drawing. I'm making it pointed at the tip, but thicker at the bottom. You'll notice this happens a lot in anime. You can make it as thick as you want, but don't go too far or it'll look a little clumpy, unless that's the look you're going for. It's anime, so there's a lot of different styles that you can follow for this. Now I'm drawing in other lashes in between them. A lot of anime characters don't have lashes, but if you want a very feminine and cute looking character, animes tend to put a lot of lashes on them. It gives them a very doe-eyed look. This eye I chose to add an eyelid. So I'm just lightly shading in where it's going to be. Notice on the inside of the eye, the eyelid is closer, and on the outside, it's further away. Now I'm shading in the outside of the eyelid, making it deeper. So the line is going to be a bit darker on the outside because on eyelids, that's where it's more deep set, if you get what I mean. Just adding some shading in there for more depth. Like I said, this is not a mandatory thing, but if you want to, you can add an eyelash. I'm going to repeat what I did on the top lash line to the bottom lash line, making it a little thicker, but keep in mind the lower lash line is not as intense as the upper lash line. So don't make it as thick, but add some depth in there. What I'm doing to the eye now is I'm kind of drawing a guideline to connect the top and bottom lash line. And I'm going to kind of draw this triangular type shape. This is going to tie them together and just connect them. Notice how I kind of curve the inside of the triangle to make it flow better. Also notice how I'm not connecting the triangle to the bottom lash line. I'm going to be erasing that guideline now. Now I'm going to be adding the eyelashes onto my eye. Nice gentle flicks to map where I want them to be. And just like my upper eyelashes, I'm going to draw in more eyelashes, make them thicker. The bottom lashes are shorter than the upper lashes, so make sure that you don't make them too long, or it might look like you have some spider legs going on. Unless that's the look you're going for. Add as little or as many as you'd like. Now I'm going to be doing the inside of the eye. What I'm going to start with is the pupil. I'm going to be coloring that in, but try to avoid the reflections of the eye. We don't want to color in the two tiny circles that we put in the eye because that's the reflection of the eye, and that's basically going to just stay white. I'm just cleaning up the lines, making it less jaggedy from my initial sketch. Gonna erase that little guideline that's inside of the reflection just because we don't need it anymore. And now I'm going to be cleaning up the lines. For the inside of the eye, I'm going to be practicing my little gradient technique. I'll be putting pressure on my pencil at the top of the eye, and as I go down, I release that pressure to make it go from dark to light. Take your time with this, darken it as you go. You really want to get this gradient right because it's going to be what adds that depth to the eye. It's going to make it look super dreamy and doughy and just chef's kiss, beautiful. So under the eye, we tend to have these tiny little wrinkles, or we have these tiny little tear ducts. I'm just going to add that into my eye. Add a little bit of slight shading on the inner and outer part of the eyelid, just to add that depth. Alright, eye is almost finished. Now all I'm going to do is just clean some lines up, darken some things, and add one more bit of shading. Right now our eye looks amazing, but this last touch is going to bring it all together. We're going to add some slight shading inside the eyeball, as you can see here. Very light, but it's going to add all that depth. It's going to make our eye look just a little bit more 3D, even though anime is 2D. Alright, now let's get to the male eye. So I'm going to be teaching you a slightly different way from the female eye, just to show you that there's so much flexibility in how to draw anime eyes. So we're going to start with the basic shape again. This time, instead of doing a circle, I'm going to do a nice fat oval. This is because for male eyes in anime, they tend to look a bit angrier. At least in animes like Dragon Ball Z or My Hero Academia. Think Bakugo, if you know who that is. Just like the female eye, I'm going to put a line on the top and bottom of the shape I drew, kind of following the curve of the shape. And just like before, I'm going to keep the upper line longer than the lower line. Now I'm going to draw this inner eye part, the pupil. And this circle is going to be cut off at the top. And here's just another tip. If you make this small, it's going to look a lot more scary or surprised. If your character is doing some type of exclamation, it's better to make it small. But usually anime eyes tend to have this inner eye part pretty big. And just like before, I'm going to make this line on the top super thick, making the inner corner pointy once again. I'm going to do the same with the bottom lash line, but not as thick as the upper one, just deepening it for that depth. And just like the other eye, I'm going to draw this triangular shape that connects the top and bottom without actually connecting it. You're just pretending there's a line there, but you don't want it to touch. Now I'm going to draw the reflections in the eye. If you were watching the female part, you would know that I drew the pupil and then the reflections afterwards, but all you have to know is that these basic shapes should be in the eye, and then you can do it in whatever order you want. If you don't add these reflections in the eye, it can make your character look a bit more menacing or angry. So if you're trying to make your character look angry or like they're uninspired or bored, you don't have to add the reflections in the eye. You can skip that step. Now I'm drawing the pupil, which is just a smaller circle inside the larger circle I drew before. And I'm going to color it in, avoiding the smaller circles that I drew before for the reflections of the eye. I'm going to be coloring in the circle, making it dark at the top, and slowly gradient to light to add that nice depth. Take your time with this. Make sure not to put too much pressure on your pencil when you're at the bottom there. You want it to look seamless. Now I'm just cleaning up the circle that I drew before. And the thing about anime is a lot of animes have these really beautiful thick and thin lines. If you notice, they have really bold black lines or really bold lines that may be colored that outline the eyes, the pupils, hair, body, etc., etc. And it gives it this really beautiful depth and illustrative style. And just like the female eye, I'm going to lightly shade in the top of the eye as a small shadow. Keep the pencil pressure very light here, and it just adds that extra layer of depth and beauty, really making your eyes pop out of the page. Very nice, very nice. Just like the female eye, I'm adding some shading underneath the eye to replicate the tear duct shadow that humans tend to have. Now you'll notice I didn't add any eyelashes to this eye. And that's because in a lot of animes, male characters don't have eyelashes. Eyelashes tend to be on more feminine or cute characters. And I've decided to add an eyelid on this eye. Now you may have noticed that once I drew this eyelid, this eye looked a lot less angry and more relaxed. The thicker an eyelid is, the more relaxed someone looks. You can look into a mirror yourself and furrow your eyebrows down and notice what happens to your eyelids. They tend to kind of shrink in size. I added some depth to the eyelid by lightly shading the inner and outer part of it and making the outer part of the eyelid a little darker than the rest. This is to add, once again, depth. And there you have it. There's a female and male anime eye. I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll see you next time.